Welcome back, Helldivers. It's good to see you again. In today's video, we're diving into the 3 best warbonds to use in Helldivers 2 for beginners. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just getting started, these warbonds will give you the edge, utility and strength you need to survive the toughest missions available. Some of my opinions will vary compared to what most other people may think, so if you think the warbond choices are better than my selection, be sure to comment below. And like always, let's dive right in. The Democratic Detonation. This used to be okay when it was first released. Now though, well, it's good. It's really good, as it packs just enough utility to where its usage can be used against all types of enemies you wish. The main appeal of the pack is gaining some extra utility, but the weapons pack enough firepower on their own in addition to them completely change your playstyle. For example, each of the explosive options available can be used to close bug holes or bot fabrications, something that before they were released relied on us using stratagems or grenades to achieve it. This warbond offers something absolutely no other pack even gets close to illuminating. Still, veterans may be the more practical warbond, as it tends to be the first warbond most players pick, but Democratic Detonation is absolutely the most enjoyable, yet unwieldy. So here are some of the noticeable highlights. The Eruptor. The Eruptor is a crossbreed between a long-range marksman rifle and the autocannon, though slower. It's a wonderful weapon that can be used in almost all missions you like, but because of how slow and cumbersome it is to use it, you have to be very careful as to when and where you use it. A trusty sidearm and support weapon, which you will be usually use as your main means of damage over the Eruptor, works fantastically with the weapon. On top of that, the weapon is pretty powerful when used against the more elite enemies, to where taking out an Overseer, for example, only requires 2 shots. Now combine that with the AoE effect against ground targets, and you can inflict quite a lot of damage before engaging close quarters. The Explosive Crossbow. The Explosive Crossbow turns you into a base to bug hole obliterating machine with such simple ease, you'll probably end up taking it with you for about 70 to 90% of your missions. It's not as safe as the Eruptor, since it has a harsh fall off which forces you to get a little closer to the enemy outpost, but you can still destroy even the heaviest of facilities as fast as you can dash in, aim and dash back out. It's a little bit medicure when it comes down to combat, but it can still hold its ground while only needing a tiny bit of support, either through stratagems or teammates. I personally use this for bugs, since the denser crowds and closer range makes it a better fit compared to the Eruptor, but honestly it can be used wherever you like as long as you can manage its shots. It also functions as a persuasive stealth weapon, since its firing is nearly silent, although its impact obviously isn't. You can use this to distract enemies to a key location, while you sneak past them, and in many ways this can be very helpful in super Helldiver modes. The Grenade Pistol. The Grenade Pistol is a great secondary if you don't have any means of blowing up any bases, especially when many sidearms go mostly unused for entire missions. It's a little frustrating to aim at first, as it has a slow drag to it before it then centers itself, but you eventually get used to it. Out of everything in the bond, this weapon will probably be the most sought after and most used secondary that a lot of players in the community will use because of how versatile and reliable it is against pretty much everything. However, do make sure that this isn't the only weapon to rely on if your main primary is out of ammo, as this isn't too great to use in most 1v1 settings. Now of course, the designs of the armors are all great and have fairly journalistic perks, so you're likely to use them if you enjoy the heavy weapons and having more throwables on hand. The victory poses are also great in packs. Multiple of the best poses in the entire game come right from the Warbond, namely the bow and squat. And then lastly, the thermite grenades is one of the best throwables to have on you when dealing with the elite enemies in game, such as the Hulks, Chargers and Harvesters. They used to be quite weak when first released, but now one simple stick of this against a Charger can kill them in one shot. This saves a lot of heavy ammo for players, and quite honestly, the most used special in game. Noticeable lowlights. The Booster Expert Extraction Pilot is kind of bad. It's only really good for missions where you don't care or won't be challenged, like helping your new friend on difficulty 4 and below. It reduces the cooling time for evac by a whopping 20 seconds, or 35 seconds if you brought this to a mission with increased cooling times. It rarely has any usage in game, and there are better boosters to pick. The only way this will become better is if you get a special VIP mission where timing is everything, or if they just simply rework the booster in the future. Adjudicator. The Adjudicator is an odd one, as it's not terrible to use, but there are better options to pick. The Adjudicator can be a very reliable weapon when dealing with armoured foes. It can dispatch brute commanders, hive guard, reinforced scout striders and devastators, even when aiming directly at their medium armor body portions, for example. Thanks to its medium rounds and heavy damage, it can inflict some serious damage within the small magazine it has. But this also has its main drawback. The Adjudicator's primary drawback is its lower magazine capacity and higher recoil per shot, making it harder to put multiple rounds onto the same target in quick succession. You can't spray and pray with the following, as it's generally just too risky. It's a tough weapon to use that not generally everyone will enjoy or like, but luckily we do have the Liberator Penetrator, which is a more better version of the Adjudicator. A Cutting Edge. Cutting Edge provides some interesting weapons and item choices for users to mess around with. Not only did it introduce some very powerful laser-based weapons like the sickle, but it's also provided quite a few interesting and experimental weapons you wouldn't see so much in most games. I did at one point have a few issues with how some of the weapons worked, with a few being outright terrible to use, but over time the devs have made some adjustments to make them more better while out in the field. Now, noticeable highlights. Stun grenades. Stun grenades are easily one of the better grenades to use in game when dealing with large groups. Although it makes you unable to destroy enemy bases and most enemies, this can be covered quite easily with a selection of gears available. The sheer utility from these should speak plenty as to why you should see one or two team members running with them. Depending on your loadout, these can work out really well on higher difficulties if you pair it up with a light armor set and orbital smoke, as the increased speed and smoke will allow you to disappear out of sight, while the stun grenades can leave them stunned for a really good while. The sickle. The sickle is arguably one of the best primaries in the game, and is the first thing you can lock in this warbond. Although it has been nerfed where it heats up much faster than before, it's still quite a powerhouse against the light armored threats. It can easily dispatch a group of enemies before overheating, and even if you do overheat, you still have ammo spare to overuse the weapon once more. Its simplicity of having near infinite ammo is great for those who can pace their shots in whatever engagement you're in. Arc 12 Blitzer. This weapon is an odd one, as it can either wipe out enemies very fast or struggle to kill a single one at times. While it may have been looked down upon when it was first introduced, it has started to become popular on the bug front, and noticeably has become a favourite weapon to use in Super Helldiver difficulty. It takes a bit of time to master it, as it is slow to fire. You will have an amazing arc shotgun on hand that can hit multiple targets at once with fairly good consistency. Noticeable lowlights: the armors. The armor are kind of lackluster for what they offer. They look good, but their passive, which allows you to tank a Tesla Tower Zap, specifically 3, is only really good if you are playing with others who are also using Tesla Towers. However, with the introduction of illuminates, they are also using arc-based weapons and gear to damage us when facing them, so in many ways the 95% arc damage reduction is actually quite handy when against solely illuminates, but against anything else, it kind of floats from there. Localization Confusion. This is a booster for me, which is about 50-50, as a 10% delay to enemies spawning after reinforcements does provide breathing room for me and my allies. Something like this in high difficulties can make it easier to maintain and control certain areas that you need to stay for objective bases. On the other hand, there are just better boosters available that provide more usefulness for the player. On top of that, dealing with breaches tend to be quite easy within a team who have the right weapons to counter the bigger enemies on demand, so it's kind of hard to justify its usage at times. A Punisher Plasma and Dagger. These two weapons are quite hard to justify and use at times, as there are generally better options. The Punisher is good against bugs and voteless, but against the bots, it does struggle at times. You also have to be careful with it because of its explosive nature, and you can and will die many times using this if things do get too chaotic. The Dagger is okay. It's not the best sidearm to use at times, but it does its job, and that's all that needs to be said. Both these weapons are good to use, but they are rarely used in higher difficulties because of how they function. Urban Legends. This is our last warbond, and it's actually the most newest one on the list, but quite honestly, it's one of the better ones to buy for everyone's sake. Not only do you get some amazing armor that can be applied wherever you go, but its booster and anti-tank replacement provides one of the best level of effectiveness for all content you use it in. The anti-tank placement alone is already worth the investment because of how crazy good it can be on the bot front. But the Warbond in general offers a simple and straight to the point kit everyone will love. Noticeable highlights: Street Scout armor set. The light and heavy armor you get in the set has one of the best passive effects in game. Now, not only does the armor look good, but the passive provides an increased reload speed by 30% and ammo capacity for primary weapons by 20%. This is generally amazing for any and all armor you have on hand, as these bonuses not only allow you to fight for longer, but also allow you to react faster when things get hairy. Although there's no medium armor version of this, the light and heavy armor can fit in just fine if you just play it safe. Flame Sentry. While most would prefer the more harder hitting sentries, the Flame Turret is easily one of the best crowd control turrets to use against the voteless and anything that won't generally fire back. For example, using this on the mission, where you need to raise the flag and then placing it down near your area, will easily take out the swarms of enemies coming your way. The only thing you've got to be aware of is its range and the left area fire it will place, as this can catch on and affect your teammates, so as long as you keep your distance, this will work out fine for you. Armed resupply pods. This is another great boost to have when calling in resupply pods. It's simple, straight to the point, and just reliable when paired up with other groups of turrets. It does not disappear after all resupplies are taken, so it has a very long shelf life until it's fully used up or destroyed. If you don't need a specific booster to help enhance your setup or your teams, then this one is definitely worth using 90% of the time. The anti-tank emplacement. One of the best stratagems money can buy. This holds 30 rounds in total and can destroy quite a lot of things within its current reserves. Ideally, I have used this on the bot front, as that's why I'm able to take out the key enemy position with ease, but most importantly, deal with the heavy armor that comes my way. It's generally good on all fronts, but the bot front is where this will excel the most in, and using this on Super Helldiver mode will make your runs even more smoother than before. However, it has little protection on it when used, so melee or long range fire can get you if you don't pay attention. The noticeable lowlights: Stun Lance. The Stun Lance isn't a bad weapon, but it's a gimmicky weapon that can be used here and there. While pairing this up with a shield will grant better protection overall, it takes quite a few hits to take out an elite enemy and works on a stamina system. This means that each hit you make will drain your stamina, which can be very risky if reinforcement suddenly comes in. It's also not that great to use against large groups, as if you're not managing your stamina carefully, you can get overwhelmed and killed. It's a fun, but like I said, very gimmicky weapon. Directional Shield. Now, Directional Shield is like the ballistic shield, but offers the ability for teammates to also take cover using it. While this is great for a support role, it's quite weak when it takes any sort of heavy damage on direct impact, which at times drains it and slowly recovers with time. It can take bladder shots from overseers fairly well, but using this against the bots, for example, on the higher difficulty, while reinforcement rains in, we'll see this shield get absolutely shredded in no time. So it's not terrible and it's not amazing, but compared to a ballistic shield, it has usage, and overall, I think that's still decent. So that comes to the end of the video. While most players will say X, Y, and Z Warbond are better than the ones currently shown, it will all depend on what exactly you want. If you want something fun, then there's a Warbond for that. If you want something that's meta, then there's something for that. If you want something that offers both, then there's something for that as well. The game provides quite a bit of options to pick, and since Warbonds don't disappear after a number of months, you have plenty of time to get the super credits you need to purchase them and play. So if you're a new Helldiver, take this as an introduction as to what to look out for in game, and then select what you want the most. But personally, these are pretty good. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, or genuinely like what was shown, then please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more future stuff. It was great seeing you again, Helldivers, and I hope to see you again soon.